Do you want to know the number one thing that's holding women back from having the relationship that they've always wanted, whether they're single or already in a relationship? Well, today I'm going to tell you what that is and what you can do about it. Hi, my name is Allison and I'm a femininity mentor, and I help single and married clients have the relationships they've always wanted by doing this one thing that I'm going to tell you about in the video. So, this number one hurdle that I help my clients overcome, you may have already guessed it, it is fear. Fear is huge. Fear keeps a woman from creating the life that she's always wanted, and also from having the relationship she's always wanted, because to have this relationship, she must have courage. She must bravely share her feelings, her problems, and her needs. And the biggest problem that I've seen with countless clients is that women are afraid to share what they really feel, what they really perceive in a situation. They're afraid to say anything, so they just don't say anything. And there's even a stereotype about women forcing men to read their minds, and a big piece of this is due to fear. So today I'm going to give you some steps to overcoming fear, learning how to communicate with courage, and creating that amazing relationship that you've always wanted. So first, I want to mention that fear will always be there. We will always have fear in our lives. It's part of being human. But how we respond to it is what's important. What we do about it is what's important. How we express it and share it. Because we could either share our fear in a way that manipulates other people so that we can try to avoid feeling that fear. Or we might, as I said earlier, think that we're a burden or nothing's going to change anyway. I mean, I hear this a lot. I've shared my feelings before. I've shared my problems before and nothing changed. Well, it's not that you shared them. It's not that you talked about your fear. It's how you did so. Because there's such a thing as covert manipulation, subtle forms of control in the way that we talk about the things that are bothering us, the issues that we're having in our relationships, for example. And because of that fear of rejection or of looking foolish or being left out, whatever that fear is, we will sometimes try to manipulate the other person into making sure that we don't have to feel that fear. And it comes out in the form of blame, of judgment. In a love relationship, we might try to tell our man, teach him how to be different so that we don't have to feel this terrible anxiety anymore. So the biggest key to learning and practicing feminine communication is to overcome this. And to do that, you have to be really honest with yourself. You have to really be able to notice when you are trying to control the other person with your fear of rejection, when you're trying to blame them, judge them. And sometimes a man's behavior did actually create a situation where you do feel that fear of rejection, but it's how you express with him how you're feeling. If you're telling him, I feel like you don't care, it's a big one. I feel unheard. I feel unimportant. I feel like you always go and hang out with your friends, or I feel like you always prioritize work over me. Those are not ways to share your fear. The feeling that is coming from your fear of rejection. So in this video, I'm going to give you some tips. So let's get into the first one. So my first tip for you is to get very familiar with your fears and their effects on your relationship. So what is it that you're afraid of? Some women tell me they actually aren't afraid of rejection. Some women tell me they're afraid of having the rug slipped out from under them. I think that there's rejection in there. I think that that would be the result of having the rug pulled out from underneath. But some women have told me that it's actually that they don't want to look like a fool. They don't want to trust and then find out that all that time and all those years and all that loyalty has gone down the drain because the man was doing things behind her back during that whole time. And that is her fear, that there is something going on when she really trusts the man. So identify that. Where do you feel that in your body? If this is you, and I've just described your biggest fear, where do you feel that in your body? Take yourself out of the intellectual, what if, the scenarios and blame and oh my gosh, and all of the fear that manifests in the form of thoughts. Translate that now into what you're actually feeling in your body when you're confronted with the possibility of this scenario happening, and let yourself really feel that. That is how you're going to be able to reach into the vulnerability, which is what you're going to need to communicate with your man. If there's something, something happens and you're like, what is going on? I saw somebody calling you, or, I saw an email. What is this about? When not that you're snooping, right? We don't do that, but let's say he's at his desk and you happen to see a couple lines of an email, and now you have this fear that, there could be something going on. Are you going to judge him and blame him and start a big argument? Or are you going to share that actual vulnerable feeling? And the only way you can do that is to first feel in your body where you're feeling that. Because you're not going to start with what you think about it. What you think about it is going to come out as a judgment. What you feel is going to help you then communicate the feelings, the fear, with more vulnerability. So to recap, tip 1 was to identify what your fears are and where they manifest in your body, how they feel in your body when you are afraid. And now step 2 is about accepting that you have that fear. That fear is going to be there, and you can make new behavioral changes. You can shift your patterns, your ways of communicating about the fear alongside the fear. So allowing courage to transform the way that you communicate about the fears, but accepting and acknowledging that that fear is there. So we don't want to avoid the fear, reject the fear, pretend that we're not afraid, because those don't really work. You're not going to be able to run away from the fear, but you are going to be able to create new habits and new patterns. Courage can coexist with fear. That is really the key to step 2 of this process. To allow yourself to feel that fear, let it be there, but choose new habits, make new choices, decide that you are going to make the courage to move with the fear bigger than your fear of the fear, because compounded fear does not help us. Trying to avoid or escape the fact that the fear is there doesn't work, but we can acknowledge the fear, bring in the courage, and step by step, with practice comes authentic courage. At first, we might have to fake it a little bit, but as we learn how to shift our old patterns and develop new ones that are more aligned with courage, then we build up that muscle. It starts to become more the default. Step 3 is not easy, but we're going to let go of control of the future. We're going to trust that we're going to be okay, even if our worst fear happens. I'm not talking about life or death situations. I'm not talking about putting yourself in danger. I'm just saying that a lot of our fears, if they really happened, if the outcome really was as bad as our fear tells us it's going to be, we're still going to be okay. They're not as bad as we make them out to be. Step 3 is also very much about building resilience and having strategies and skills in place that can help you deal with challenging situations. So instead of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, if you learn some somatic practices, some nervous system regulation, these are things that I help my clients with when it comes to managing fear and letting go of outcomes, because so much of the time when we're afraid, there's like this paralysis that can happen where we're just like, it has to be a certain way. It has to be a certain way. And as we let that go, using skills like somatic awareness and nervous system regulation, then that resilience builds. And we're so much more able to handle stress and scary situations as they come. And my very final step for you in this video today is all about celebrating yourself when you take a step in the direction of facing your fears and overcoming them with your courage. We can't miss this step. This step is very important because we have to celebrate our wins. We have to anchor the important moments when you made the choice to create a new pattern, walk in the direction of your fear with confidence. And, maybe it didn't turn out the way that you had hoped, but you still need to celebrate that you went for it and you tried it. And to give you a specific example would be to speak about your fears with your man, to take that step and decide that speaking in a responsible way where you're not blaming him and not judging him, but sharing the vulnerable feelings that you got in touch with when you listened to your body and the tension or the panic, the heart racing, whatever it was that came up for you when you decided to make that choice to pay attention, not to what you think about the fear or the outcome, but how you're feeling right now. Listening, feeling, accepting, taking a step in the direction of courage. Got to celebrate that. So please let me know in the comments if anything I've said today resonates for you, or if you want to learn more about how I help my clients regulate their nervous systems and face their fears with courage. Just send me a message on Instagram at @afeminineheart. I can't wait to hear from you, and I will see you on the next one. Bye!